Hello CraftDee family, and welcome to another tutorial by She's So CraftDee. For today's DIY projects, I have selected 5 of my favorite trash to treasure projects that I have transformed into awesome gifts and home decor. Now you can usually find most of these items discarded in a recycle or waste bin, but I'm going to show you how to give them all a new life. Now I will include the link to the original tutorials for each project in the description box, as well as a supply list that is needed to make them. But before we start, I have to say, hey to all of my subscribers, and if you are a new visitor to my channel today, I hope you consider subscribing as well and are inspired to create some of these crafts for your home, your friends, and your family. So now, let's jump right into the projects. Now here is the inspiration photo for this project. Now I absolutely love this style of decor, and the inclined fence design was so eye-catching. Now along with those beautiful rustic pots, I thought that these elements would provide the perfect challenge for me to recreate. So I headed to the Dollar Tree to pick up some supplies as well as other items that were less than $1 to make this all come together. Now for this project, we're going to need 2 of these 10 count 1 gallon paint stir sticks from Lowe's, and these are 98 cents each. We'll also be using 4 empty tin cans, and we'll be using some poster board from the Dollar Tree. So the first thing we're going to do is take 1 of those packs of those 10 gallon stir sticks, and I am going to mark a top peak for my fence picket, and I'm going to start and end this where that handle starts to curve. Now once that is drawn, go ahead and take it out to your saw and cut your peak. Now for the second pack, we are just going to open these because we will be cutting all these to size to make our fence design come together. So go ahead and lay out your grid mat, and we'll be using this as a guide when laying out our fence sections. So unbundle those fence sections, and we want to make sure that we lay these with the markings facing you and the good side is facing down. So how we're going to lay these is we're going to space them 1 inch apart, and each one of the sticks is going to be 1 inch higher than the last one to create our inclined direction, and we're going to lay out with 7 sticks in the beginning. And then we're going to grab 1 of those full sticks, and I'm going to lay it right along the bottom edge, and this will be the first level of support for our fence. Now we're just going to repeat this for the second and the third levels, and we do want to make sure the curved part of that paint stick is actually over one of the sticks. Now once those are all laid in place, just take your pencil and mark their placement so you'll know where to glue them. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to mark a line where they overlap that last stick by about 1/4 of an inch, and then mark where I'm going to trim off the excess on the end. Now once those are all marked, you can go ahead and cut these off. Now since I just had 1 stick, I am just going to cut these with a utility knife, and it was fairly easy to do. And then this is what you end up with your 3 sticks cut at an angle, and you just want to lay them back down and line them up with your marks that you made. Now once they're all laid out, I'm going to be using my Sure Bonder hot glue gun with the Sure Bonder wood glue sticks for this project. Now to bond these in place, I'm just going to apply some of that hot glue to each one of those picket sticks, and then I'm going to lay that 1 stick that we cut right on top, making sure you fit it along the lines that you marked. And then you're just going to repeat this for the remaining 2 sticks, making sure that you lay them out as evenly as possible. And here are all the sticks fully bonded. And then I'm going to grab 2 more of those pickets, and I am going to place these right next to picket number 7 that's right at the top. Now to hold these in place, it's a good idea to take like a roll of some painter's tape and put it on the back of the stick. Now I did do this for some of the other sticks, and I don't believe I did show you guys. I'm sorry about that, but it's a good idea to tape those down so they don't shift. So now we're going to connect that 6th picket to the 7th picket, and you see our sticks were originally too short. So what we're going to do is take additional stick that we had, and we're just going to line it up with that angle, and we're going to overlap that next stick by 1/4 of an inch, and then we're going to mark the alignment at the end of that first stick that we had. So we're just going to mark 3 sections to join that last stick to stick number 7. So what we're going to do is cut these out with our utility knife, and now we have all 3 sections, and I've numbered them so I'll know where to place them, and I'm just going to stick them in place. And as you can see, they do overlap by 1/4 of an inch because we want that other end to be able to hold an additional stick to join the other 2 pieces. Now you just take some hot glue, put it on each end, and you want to put it in place, making sure that the angles are nice and even and that they match. And then I'm going to place some of that hot glue down the seam for extra security. And then I had some of these extra craft sticks left over. I hold on to all of my scraps. I know I have a problem. But what I did is I took those craft scraps and I'm just going to add them on that seam. And this is just for a little bit of extra stability on that seam. So now we're going to grab an additional paint stick, and this is where we're going to cross those last 3 sticks, and I'm just going to measure a distance from the end of that first stick to the end of the pickets. Now I can get 2 pickets, 2 of these pieces out of 1 stick and a 3rd one out of the 3rd, because you don't want that curved part on there. So once all 3 pieces are measured and cut out with your utility knife, you could place those in place right on top. Go ahead and hot glue them in and put glue in those seams. And I'm just going to take some more of those scrap craft sticks and place over that seam just so they'll be nice and secure. So here is the piece all hot glued together and it is ready to go. Now to have a little bit of extra reinforcement, I'm just taking my staple gun and I'm applying a staple everywhere where the sticks overlap. And this is how it looks so far. And this is what it will look like when all the staples are applied. Now for my second backup of security, I'm just adding a little bit of hot glue at that seam where the wood sticks come together. This is just a little bit of added extra stability since we will be holding a little bit of weight on this piece. So now we can go ahead and work on our can. So grab one of the cans and the placement will be where the top rim will touch that second stick. And there will be a can between the first 2 sticks, the second 2 sticks, and the third 2 sticks, and then that last one. So I'm going to mark down about 1.5 inches from the edge onto the stick pattern, fence pattern, and then I'm going to put 2 dots on each side. Now once you have those first 2 dots put in place, I'm just taking a scrap piece of paper and laying it where I would lay my can. I'm going to rub those dots against that paper and they will transfer right on there. Now this is going to be used as a template to transfer over to where we're going to place our second set of cans here. I'm rubbing that paper against it and as you can see, those dots do transfer. So I'm going to do it for the first 3 dots on the incline. I'm going to rub them on and then trace them on. Now for the last one, we are going to actually put our can right on that center stick. So once we place it there, we're going to line it up with that middle stick in the middle, and then I'm just going to place 2 dots about 1/2 inch apart. So now that our dots are all marked, we are going to drill holes where those dots are because we will be securing these with straps. So we're going to just quickly drill out all of those holes in there. Now, if you don't have a drill, you could also use a nail and hammer a nail in there to get a hole as well. You just want to make sure that it's big enough for a zip tie to go through. So now everything is drilled, we can go ahead and paint our fence, and I'll be using some of this nutmeg brown and some of this black, and I'll mix them together to make a nice dark brown. Now this will be an undercoat, so I just want to make sure I put this in, I try to cover up as much as I can. It doesn't exactly have to be neat. You just want to make sure you cover it up because it will be showing through under our weathered coating, and this is what it will look like when it's all painted. And now that it's all dry, we can start working on our weathered finish, and I'm just going to be using this white acrylic paint, and I'm just going to be using this chip brush to apply it. So I'm going to dip my chip brush into there, and I'm going to remove most of that paint from the brush for a mostly dry brush. And as you can see, when I wisp it across those pickets, it creates this really worn weathered look, and you want to do this for all your pickets and in between until the whole fence is covered. And now that our fence is finally dry, we can move on to the next step. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to take my cans and I will determine their placement. So what I'm going to do is place it on the fence, and once I get it aligned where it goes, I'm going to flip it over to the back. Now what I did is I just put a little dot of that paint right on one of these little scrap sticks, and I have a fine paintbrush from Dollar Tree. I'm going to dip my paintbrush in those little screw holes where I touch the can, and this way the screw holes will be transferred onto the can and we know where to screw our holes to attach them. Now I am going to mark the cans as I go so I know what level goes where. Now you do want to repeat this for all of your cans, making sure you mark those and marking the level on the outside so you know where to place them. And then for the final can, mark those 2 dots and we're good to go. So now that we have everything marked, I'm just going to take my drill and I am going to drill in those holes where I marked on each one of the cans. And now all our cans are drilled and ready to go. Now I am going to be covering my cans, so I'm going to transfer those place markings to the inside. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this poster board from Dollar Tree and I'm going to be transforming it to look like galvanized metal. Now I just spray painted it with some silver or aluminum color spray paint, and then I dabbed it with a paper towel while it was wet to create this texture. Now it's really simple and easy to do, and it dries super quick. Now I do have a quick demo showing how to do this, and I will link it up in the top right hand corner of this video, and I'll also link it in the description box below. So again, I'm going to lay out the grid mat and grab that painted poster board and one of my cans. Now all I'm going to do is take that can and I want to lay it along the edge, and I want to mark the distance and length of that can on that poster board, giving just a little bit of playroom. Then take my straight edge and I want to connect those markings, and then I just want to cut those out. Now using your X-Acto knife and a straight edge to do this will give you the best result. Now once that piece is nice and straight and cut out, you just want to trace the dimensions of that piece onto the board and cut a second strip. So now grab one of your cans, and what you want to do is just to start to roll that poster board around the can, because you want to determine how much you will need to wrap up the entire can. So once that poster board overlaps about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, you want to make a mark at that point. Then take your ruler and your X-Acto knife. You want to join up those markings and then cut it down the middle, and it ended up being cut about right in half. So now we can start to apply it to the can, and you do want to make sure that your seam is in between the 2 drill holes in the can. Just apply some of that hot glue right in between there and start applying the edge of that poster board sheet to the can. You do want to make sure that it is covering the top and bottom edges. Now once that first strip is secured, you just go ahead and apply another strip of that hot glue every few inches. Just keep wrapping it around the can really tight to make sure it's secure. Then at the end, put another generous amount of hot glue, making sure those edges are overlapped, and now you have one completely covered can, and this is what it looks like. Now another trick I used was using this bone folder tool. It's a common tool used to make paper flowers, and you can use it to curve the board to ensure you don't have any creases. So if you do have one of these, it's a good tool to use to pre-curve all of your boards to prevent any kind of creases in it. And then once all your cans are covered, just do any last minute trimming and cleanup, and you are done. You just want to make sure all 4 of your cans are nice and covered. Now when we did cover our cans, we did cover our holes. So I'm just taking this little poker tool that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm poking it from the inside just to transfer those holes, and then I'm making them wide enough for feed through. So I'm just taking my X-Acto knife and my poker tool and making sure you could see all of those holes from the outside. So to attach our cans, we're going to be using these zip ties, and I got these from Dollar Tree. Now I'm going to start at the very top of my fence, so I'm going to poke a zip tie through the back of the fence, through the top hole of the can, back through the bottom hole of the can, and then when that's strapped in, you just go ahead and place that zip tie through the bottom hole of the fence. Now once it is there, just connect the back and squeeze and place that zip tie in place. You don't want it totally tightened, just in case you need to make any adjustments. Then for the second can, we're going to do the same thing. Now these go side to side, so you just want to insert one of those zip ties, insert it through one side of the can and out through the other, and then back through the back of the fence through the other hole. Again, you want to secure that zip tie in place, not too tight, but just enough to secure it while you work. Now you want to repeat this until all the cans are attached, and once they are, you can go back and tighten everything up. And then take your wire clippers or scissors and snip off all of those zip tie tails. So now what I'm going to do is add a little rustic trim to my containers. Now in retrospect, I should have painted these before I attached them, but I was just so excited seeing all this to come together that I didn't even think about it until they were attached. But what I'm going to use is some of this red, nutmeg brown, and black, and I'm going to mix them until I get a rust color. Now it wasn't rust enough, so I did add some harvest orange to it to give it a more red rustic color. Now I'm just going to dab off some of that paint and then start tapping that color around the top and bottom edges of all of my cans. Now this will be the beginning of how we achieve our rust look. So we just want to apply a nice good coating to the top and bottom. And here are all the cans with that first layer. You want to dab off more of that paint for a more dry brush, and then we're going to apply another layer right underneath it just to look like the rust is kind of spreading around on those cans. You can put it on the can in the middle, you can do little lines, just make it look as realistic as you want. Now after that is done, I'm mixing a little black into the rust color and I'm going around the top and bottom edges. Now where rust usually originates, it's usually darker than the rest of the area, so this is just to help it achieve a more realistic look and look more like my inspiration piece, and this is what it will look like. And this is when everything is nice and dry and you can see that rustic farmhouse feel of this piece. Now to hang the piece, we are going to flip it over to the back, and I'm going to put a loop at the second stick at the top and the second stick at the bottom. So to do this, I'm using some of this thick jute twine with knots tied on each end. I'm just going to fold that in half, and I want to place that right on top of that middle stick, right on that second stick at the top of our fence. And I'm going to be applying this with a couple of staples on each side with my staple gun. Now I made the loop really small so you couldn't see it from the other side, but it is sufficient enough to fit on a nail that's mounted in the wall. Now you just repeat this for that second stick down at the bottom. You just want to place it right there in the middle and staple that into the place as well. And here are both loops in place and it's ready to hang. So now we can decorate our piece. So I have some bundles of boxwood that I got from Walmart for 98 cents, and you could just add these to the little pots. I just think this is such a great contrast with the bright green and the rustic color. This looks amazing. Then of course, if flowers are more of your style, I did find these cute little daisies at the Dollar Tree, and I put one of those in every other pot. Now I'm a sucker for wildflowers and I love yellow, so I placed some of those in there, and I really love this combination too. Now if you are a sunflower fan, no worries, I got your bag. Put some sunflowers in with those boxwoods and it would look amazing. Now you could do anything you like with this. You can even add any kind of greenery you like. And now we can hang up the final project and enjoy it. Now I really love the way that this turned out. Now there is so much detail and so many textures in this piece, and it makes it really stand out. And I think that the finish on the fence turned out so awesome, and it really looks like weathered wood. And those pots, now they're really the star of the show with a realistic galvanized rustic look, and they were so easy to make. Now all you have to do is top off with some greenery or filler. I mean, your choice. It's really, really up to you. Now you can even use this for craft supplies, some art tools, or even in the kitchen. Now the possibilities for this are endless. Now be sure to let me know in the comments what different ways would you use this piece in your home. And I will be repurposing this box from goldfish crackers. So we're going to start by measuring up from the bottom, just short of about 3 inches, and I'm going to mark it all the way around. And then I'm going to draw a line connecting all of my marks. And here I'm just going to go ahead and roughly cut off the top of that box and then make sure I clean the inside thoroughly. And now that it's clean, we can go ahead and trim that box down to our marked line. Now I decided to decorate my box with these decorative sheets from the Dollar Tree. Now it comes in 3 different designs, and I chose the stripes for my box. Now these sheets are 6 inches wide, so I'm just going to cut these in half long ways to make 3-inch strips. And now we can start to apply our strips all the way around the outside of our box. Now to apply them to the box, we're only going to use some hot glue. And here is the box fully covered. Now to trim out the bottom, I'm going to use this gold bling wrap from the Dollar Tree. Now I'm just going to use hot glue and apply it around the bottom edge. Now I have this scrap piece of foam that I'm going to cut to fit inside the box. Now you can also use floral foam. So I'm just going to press my box into that foam to imprint it, and then I'm going to cut that square out along those imprinted lines. Now we know styrofoam can be messy, so I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick cleanup, and then I'm going to take that foam and I am going to put it inside my box. Now you can run a bead of hot glue inside the edge if you like, but it's not necessary. So now I'm going to take 2 bunches of roses from the Dollar Tree, and what I'm going to do is cut off the roses, leaving about a 2-inch stem below each bud. And now that they're all cut, we can start applying them inside the box in rows. And here are all those beautiful roses lined up inside. Now I just added a simple red ribbon around the middle, and this is ready to customize with a tag for Mom. Now I really love the pretty roses at Dollar Tree this year, and I'm so happy to use them in this project. I think this turned out so sweet, and paired with a card would make a great gift. A local upper right hand corner of this video, and I'll also link them in the description box below. Now I'm going to gather up some assorted acrylic paints that I have for my flowers, and these can be your choice. Then we want to go ahead and take a chip brush and we want to apply the color to the pine cones, making sure that we get into all those cracks and crevices using a dabbing motion. And then we're going to go ahead and repeat this process with all the other colors of your choice. And now that all the flowers are painted, we're going to paint those stems. So I'm going to mix 2 greens to get the color that I want. And then you want to go ahead and paint the stems of each flower. Now once the flowers are dry, I'm going to add a bit of that yellow to the palette, and I want to paint the centers of each flower. And here are all of our beautiful flowers painted. So now we can take our container that we want to use, and in this case, I'll be using this mug from the Dollar Tree. So what I'm going to do is take a few pieces of rolled up tape and I'm going to place it in the bottom of that mug. And then I'm going to line the mug with plastic, and in this case, I'm just going to use a cut up zip bag. You want to stick the bag down inside of that mug and press it against that tape. And then I'm going to take some floral foam and I'm just going to cut this to fit inside my mug right below the top level. And then once it's all fit, just trim off that extra plastic. Now for the greenery, I'll be using this 97-cent Boxwood pick from Walmart. You want to go ahead and clip off all the branches with a wire cutter. And then I'm going to arrange these individually inside of the mug. And once it looks good, we can go ahead and start adding our pinecone flowers. And all we're going to do is we're going to cut and adjust them as needed, and we're just going to put them in a random pattern. Now once everything is in, you can trim off any boxwood to even it out and make it look nice. Now we're just going to add a tag for mom. So I have an assortment here, but I think I'm going to go with the heart. So I'm going to go ahead and add that string to my tag. And then I'm just going to take a chalk marker and write Mom on the tag. I attach it to my bouquet, and there you go. We have a finished look. And here's the completed arrangement. Isn't it simply adorable? Now I absolutely love the detail in flower pine cones, and the best thing is that they will be beautiful year round. And that mug can still be used for beverages. All you have to do is remove the arrangement and the tape and you're good to go. Now we're going to need 2 packs of the 5-gallon paint stir sticks for 98 cents from Lowe's, or just use 1 pack plus 1 extra paint stick. We're also going to need 2 clean tin cans. So first thing we're going to do is take 3 of those paint stir sticks and we want to line them up evenly. Now I do want to make sure I cut off that curved part, which equals about 17 inches, and here are all of my paint stir sticks nice and cut and ready to go. Now I'm going to take that 3rd paint stick and I want to lay it right on top across there, and I want to mark the length of that because I'll be cutting 2 pieces to fit across the length of these stir sticks at the top and at the bottom. So now we're going to adhere these together. So I'm going to place the good side down, and I'm using my carpenter square that I got from the Dollar Tree to make sure it's nice and square. So to bond these together, you can certainly use some craft sticks, but I have 2 extra 1-gallon paint stir sticks that I had, and I'm just going to align them along that seam. So what I'm going to do is apply some of my Surebonder hot glue, and then I'm going to place a generous amount of that hot glue on that gallon stir stick and place it along the seam on the back. Now once those are in place and good to go, we're going to flip it over to the good side, and we want to apply those 2 small pieces. Now you do want to apply these with the numbered side facing the good side of our plank, and then place them about 1/4 inch from the bottom. Now you want to do this on both sides. So now that our little holder is ready to go, we are going to stain it. I'm going to apply 1 good coat of my Jacobian Stain by Minwax with my rag, and you just want to make sure that you get in all those crevices, especially along where those cross pieces are across the top and bottom, and don't forget to get those sides as well. So now that it's all stained, you can sit it outside to completely dry. So while that dries, we're going to go ahead and work on our cans. So I'm going to take my 2 cans, and I'm going to place 2 marks at the top with my little Sharpie just to drill 2 holes. I want to mark where I'm going to drill 2 holes so that it'll attach to our holder. Now I want to repeat this for both of the cans. Now if you don't have a drill, you can certainly just use a nail and a hammer to make a hole, but I'm going to use my drill to drill those holes out. And once that first one is done, you want to repeat this for that second can. So now that both cans are done, we can go ahead and paint them, and I'll be using my white chalk paint. Now what I want to do is apply that first coat just all over the can. Now I do advise you, do not hold your can the way that I did here. Those inside edges can be kind of sharp, so make sure you wear gloves or protect your hands when you do that. Now you also want to make sure that you do paint the bottoms too, because they will be showing in your project. So once that first layer is on, apply a second layer and then allow them to completely dry, and here are our cans all ready to go. Now I wanted to add a little accent to my cans to showcase those ridges, so I'm going to be using some of this elephant gray acrylic paint to do that. Now you certainly can sand it with a sanding block, but I have an old sanding block here. What I'm going to do is paint a little bit of that elephant gray paint on there, and then I'm going to just stamp it onto the can, and what it does is highlight those ridges for me. Again, you can use sandpaper, but I like the stamping method a little more. I didn't want that shiny metal coming through. So once that dries, so what I'm going to do is accent this with a little bit of ribbon from the Dollar Tree. So I'm just going to wrap it around one of my cans. I'm using some burlap here, and I'm going to just cut 2 strips to wrap around my cans, and then I'm going to end up folding it in half. Now once I do fold it in half, I'm going to start wrapping it around my can, making sure that I start at the back where we drilled those 2 holes. Now to adhere it in place, all I'm going to do is apply some of that hot glue at the beginning and at the end. Now you do want to make sure your ends are nice and clean, so go ahead and apply some hot glue at the very end after you clip it down. Now to go on top of this, I'm using some of this neutral striped fabric from the Farmhouse collection at Dollar Tree. I'm just going to go over that, and I'm going to secure that in place with hot glue as well. Now I did want to keep this very neutral, but you guys can be as fun or creative as you like with your ribbons, colors, or even tags. And so here is one of my cans completed, and just repeat this until both of the cans are done. So now our board is nice and dry, and we're going to take our cans, and I'm just going to line them up on the board and determine my placement. And once I do, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my chalk pen, and I'm just going to make a mark through the holes that I drilled and transfer those markings to the board, so I'll know where I will be placing it on the board. And now that all 4 of my holes are marked, I'm taking my drill, and I am just going to go ahead and drill out those holes. So here are all 4 of my holes ready to go. Now before we attach our cans, I'm going to attach this jute string hanger. All I did was take a piece of jute string, tie a knot in the end, and I'm just going to fold it in half and place it right at the top of the board. Now to apply this, I'm just going to use my staple gun. I'm going to apply a couple staples on each end of that jute string right above that knot so it'll be nice and secure when it hangs. So now to secure our cans, I'm going to use a couple of these zip ties that I got from the Dollar Tree. These come in 60 a pack for only $1. So I'm inserting one of those zip ties through the back of the board first, and then I'm going to insert it through the can, one of the holes, and out the other hole of the can, and I'm going to repeat this for both of my cans. And then when they're both in there, go ahead and put the other end of that zip tie through the hole so both of those zip tie strings will be in the back, and then just secure them into place as tight as possible. Now while you tighten this, you do want to keep making sure that it's nice and even on the front, and if everything looks really good, go ahead and clip those tails off the back and you are done with securing those cans to your board. Now to decorate mine, I'm just using a couple of these Boxwood bundles that I got from Walmart for 97 cents, but you can use any kind of greenery or decor that you like. I just think that this is super cute. And here is my simple but sweet little plant holder on display, and I think this is perfect for your small plants. Now, although this piece is cute for plants, you can use it to hold craft tools and even add labels instead of the ribbon. Now, you can make 1, 2, or even 3 for your spaces and just keep those cans out of your landfills. Now, these projects were all so much fun to share today, but you guys have to let me know which one of these DIYs was your favorite. Let me know in the comments below. Listen, I hope that you all enjoyed seeing these creations again, or for some of you for the very first time. I hope that you all are inspired to create your own great home decor using recyclables as well. Now, if you love DIYs on a budget, please give this video a big thumbs up and share this video with your friends. Make sure that you're following She's So CraftDee on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest for the latest news, sneak peeks, and giveaways. Now, if you do like videos like this and you don't want to miss the next one, make sure you're subscribed by clicking that subscribe button below, or just click on my She's So Crafty logo on your screen and then click the bell. It's absolutely free. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.